On this episode of The Blurb, a book that's like Dr. Jekyll meets 50 Shades of Grey. Welcome to The Blurb. I'm your host, Glenn Porzik. Be sure to check out theblurb.tv for show notes and links. This episode is brought to you by Graphic Entertainment. Read the supernatural thriller series Darkness Unbound and the science fiction thriller Among the Titans free with a 30-day free Kindle Unlimited membership at graphicentertainment.com/free. Victorian chef and author of awards-winning Knife's Tale and the cookbook Victorian Catsup, penny farthing writer, horseless carriage driver, ketchup maker, fur baby father, and husband to a beautiful woman that needs a brain scan for agreeing to live with him on purpose. I'd like to welcome author Daniel Dark to The Blurb.
Hey, Glenn, it's good to be here today. Hope you're having a great day.
I am. I hope you are as well. Look at you outside enjoying the weather.
Oh, yeah. It was tornadoes out here yesterday, and today it's semi-sunny, so
This is
it's looking good.
This is the karmic payoff for having to deal with tornadoes yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have you on here. I would like to start out with reading the blurb to your book.
In 1888, one of the most notorious serial killers in history plagued London's East Side. Knife's Tale is not about those murders, but the life behind them. What would cause a normal person to slay in such a horrific manner? Daniel Dark has explored an alternative tale of a doctor lost in reality, trying to correct his past. With the help of his personal servant, he searches the chapel for answers about the connection of the knife. Where did he come from? And how is the doctor part of his plans for escaping the police at every turn? Read Knife's Tale to learn the story behind the blade that killed London. Knife's Tale will be a classic among serious patrons of mystery and suspense. It will survive the ages and become required reading for those that study the evil that men do to others. That was from Mike Pettit, author of Mystery and Suspense.
Nice. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the title of the book first. Did you come up with the title first, or was that something that developed after you've been working on it a while?
It developed after I've been working on it a little while. I wanted something that was not just Jack the Ripper, blah, blah, blah. I wanted something that was that told what the story was coming from a different place than just the normal that's done before. Considering this is a prequel to Jack the Ripper, I wanted, something that sort of identified that over something else. That's the reason I called it Knife's Tale, because it's a tale from the side of the knife.
Now, have you thought, obviously this is a prequel to the Jack the Ripper tale, have you thought about doing sequels to this book, or was that ever a plan?
Well, I have a 2-book series extra that's coming out with it. It'll be what he did after the murders, and also I'm doing a victim POV. All the victims in the first 2 books, what was going on in their life when Jack the Ripper came in and destroyed their life, basically, or whatever happened to them in the books.
Right. Well, that sounds like an interesting take on it. Nothing that I've seen before, so that sounds good. Now, we just saw the cover to the book. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, how you came to have that cover?
Well, if you're looking at the cover and everything, you see that guy standing on the front cover, that is actually me. The cover artist, Aaron Drawn, had seen pictures of me and wanted me to sit there and pose for my own cover. He said, can you send me some pictures with a big knife? Actually, that is a knife that I have and everything that I take to shows with me. I actually had to sit there and talk myself, being an ex-chef, I had to talk myself into dulling it down so I could take it to shows. Like, so it's like a butter knife now, but it's a butcher knife is what it was. And I did the pictures in my living room. He took a picture that he had done when he was in London, transposed them together, did a wraparound cover, and there you go. I think he did a marvelous job on what he did on the cover.
Yeah, I think it looks good. And I don't know if authors being on the cover is something you see very often, but I think it works for this one.
Yeah, I never thought of myself as Jack the Ripper, but just, I can see where it could be used,
Yeah,
because this is me 365 days a year.
right, right. So, what genre would you say this falls under, or what if someone were looking for it on the shelf or whatever? What category do you think it?
If you're looking for it on the shelf, like if you went into a Barnes and Noble or something like that, it's normally on the fiction drama category, even though it's considered horror, erotica, or as my publisher calls it, erotica. Um, I never knew that I was writing erotica until they pointed it out to me that, yeah, this is erotica. This is not just, I'm like, okay, whatever. But, it is identified as a horror book and a history book and a cookbook. Because back in the back of the book, whatever he talks about eating in the book, I give the original recipes from the 1800s in the back of the book.
Oh, nice. That's a nice little addition there to the book. So that's cool. Now, I'm going to ask also, what other genres do you write under? And I think that plays into what you just mentioned a little bit.
Well, the only other book that I've got out right now is my Victorian Catsup cookbook. I was a Victorian chef before, had a restaurant of my own, and wrote this book to help me recover from a stroke that I had while had the restaurant. Before I had to give up the restaurant, I had a stroke, and this book helped my brain come back around. So, that is the other category that I work in. Some more books that I'll be coming out with will be fractured fiction, but they're all done as serial killers and stuff like that. So,
okay,
I write about Victorian serial killers mainly. Just, the lighthearted, Hallmark, editions.
Yeah. Well, that's good if you've got such a love for the Victorian era, and it's good to stay in that, and people know what they're getting, when they check out one of your books, that they know you've done the research, and you're really into that period.
Yeah, that is my late Victorian, early Edwardian is what I go toward mainly, and that's like I'm doing a ketchup demo at one of the historic homes here in a few months, where I'll be actually making ketchup on site and talking to them about making ketchup and stuff. So, but the friend of mine that he is a coordinator out at the Sam Davis home here in Middle Tennessee, he wants me to come out there and do a demo and everything for him one day. I agreed to do that for him, along with riding my penny farthing bicycle and driving around my 1901 Oldsmobile Curve Dash automobile. So,
Oh, that's nice. That's nice, and it's cool that it all ties together, and it gives you something unique when you go to these appearances at conventions and things. So it's really cool. Now, I like to ask the elevator pitch. What meets what? How would you describe this book in just a sentence?
well, Knife's Tale is the diary of Jack the Ripper before he becomes Jack the Ripper. What would have caused a man to become Jack the Ripper? And if you're looking at what meets what, I would say Dr. Jekyll meets 50 Shades of Grey is sort of the way it goes. Because if you remember in Dr. Jekyll, he lost reality on what was going on in his life when he became Mr. Hyde. And that's sort of without giving too much of the book away, that's a lot of the premise of what's going on in this book. He's trying to find out why he's connected to the man with the knife. He keeps having these dreams and different things like that, and he can't understand why he's connected to it.
Cool. So obviously you have a love for the era, but what was and you told us why you wrote the Catsup book, but what got the ball rolling on this particular book, on Knife's Tale?
Well, I had read, I don't know, over 50 books on Jack the Ripper. My dad was a lieutenant with homicide back when I was a kid, and we talked about cold cases and different things like that, and different murder cases. And one of the cases that used to come up that we would talk about some was Jack the Ripper, because it was an unsolved case. It had never been solved. Nobody has solved it to this day. And I had read all these books about the cases, and this person thinks this person's Jack the Ripper, this person thinks this person's Jack the Ripper, but nobody had ever written a book on what would have caused a man to become Jack the Ripper. Where did he come from? And I decided to write it myself. And it was sort of a challenge to myself to see if I could actually do it, thinking nobody would ever want to read my dribble. And this last week and everything, I was presented with the Poison Cup Award from Crime Masters of America, which is this little thing right here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but
yeah, very nice. And so you went from thinking no one's ever gonna read your book, and now it's an award-winning book. So.
Yeah, it's an award-winning book now. And for people that are out there that they say, go, well, I can't write, I can't do this. I am a person that failed English 101 3 times in college. I'm not real good at mechanics of writing. If you can tell a great story, write your story. And, the first time you write it, it's not going to be great. I wrote Knife's Tale like 3 times. Wrote the whole book 3 times and came out with the one that I've got now. And, but that's what editors are for, to make sure that all the punctuation's correct, make sure that all the right words are in the right spots and stuff like that. As a author, my job is to write a great story. And apparently that's what other people think that I do. I don't believe it myself yet, but I'm not going to buck popular belief. So if they want to believe I write a great book, I write a great book.
That's right. It's up to the audience to decide. It really is.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Because we are our own worst critics. You know that, Glenn.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. And the thing is, you need to never fall into being satisfied, because then you're complacent. You always want to strive to do your best and top yourself. And so you can't really totally love your work, because then it grows stagnant. So it's best to always feel there's room for improvement.
Well, that's what I'm taking so much time on getting the second and third book out, is because I want them to be better than book 1. And I want them to have a point to them on not just something else to read, but this one actually, enhanced the story and gave me a whole lot of, other things to think about. Because how many times do we, hear the victim's point of view? You never hear the victim's point of view in the movies or in the books or anything like that, especially on a slasher film and stuff. You always hear that's slasher, like Michael Myers. He had a terrible childhood. He had this happen to him, had that happen to him, and he, grew up to, kill teenagers and stuff. Freddy Krueger had the things that happened to him. But you never hear about, what was going on in this, this person's life before they were killed. How good was it or how bad was it?
Right.
And in London in 1888, the average person did not have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
They were working every day, many, many hours a day, a lot of times 16 hours a day, going out and getting drunk because they really didn't have enough money to do anything. And that was their way of feeling better about themselves a lot of times, which made them feel worse about themselves in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
now, when you were doing research for this book, was there anything that you learned that was really surprising?
How much research it would take to do the book. After I'd read as many as I had, I thought that I had a pretty good, clarity on what I was going to write and, what I would write about and stuff. And there was still so much that I had to research. And like I use dictionaries from that time period to make sure that the words that I've got in there were actual words that were used during the late 1800s. Because words that, that we think have been around forever may not have started until, 1900s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or after that. And, and other things, what they meant back then compared to what they mean today.
Yeah,
because, it's just like a simple word that has changed total definition. And, some people call it a derogatory word and everything. I think it's just a natural word. Gay, which meant happy and all that stuff back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's somebody that lives an alternative lifestyle. Which,
Yeah, you're right. That things change over time. I know I used to when I was younger. I had a thesaurus from the 1930s, and I love to look through it and look at all the old words and how things have changed. That was one of my secret weapons when I was coming up with cool titles for things, was to look through that old thesaurus.
What time period were you writing in at that time?
Oh, I was just coming up with ideas for comic book stuff back in the day. Come up with archaic names or words that could be used as names for characters and stuff like that. I don't know. It was just fun. I used to read a lot of the pulp novels that were written in the 30s too, so I think that helped me, understand things a lot better.
Right. It was like, one of the names that I've come up with for a future book is a breakdown of a word that means buried alive. And it'll be a character that will be in one of my future books. But if you break the word down, or if the word's not broken down, it means buried alive.
Nice. It's cool when there's things that are kind of hidden in plain sight too, like that everybody's not going to get it right away. But if you dig deeper, then you find out what's really going on. It might give you a clue to something. Now, let's talk about the setting a little bit. How much is the setting a character in your story, would you say? Obviously, the time period is very important. But
the time period is very important. The setting is a huge character in my book, because I use things that I use the setting more like you'd be able to get into it, the fog and the rain and different things like that, and how things are being done will give you a different sense of feel. And like the house that I describe that he lives in, one of the finest houses in the east side of London, because he is the doctor there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the things that he sees and different things like that, and the settings that he's in, wouldn't work anywhere else except for in that type of setting, and being able to feel that setting.
Now, normally I ask to be introduced to the main character, but I think people are probably aware of the main character, and anything that would be unique would be your take on it, which they should probably read the book to find that, right? But if
I give out too much of the main character, it would ruin a lot of the different parts of the book.
Right.
Hit some of his habits that he does, some of the things that he likes to throw lavish parties, and him and his wife do and stuff, and have different people over of notoriety and things like that, and being able to have the money to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a member of a prestigious club in London for men and stuff, and it's just different things that if I gave out too much about him, you wouldn't have to read the book as much.
Right. So we'll skip on to casting. Now, in this case, you actually are the character on the cover, but if this were to be made into a screenplay and made into a movie or something, who do you see playing the lead?
I get different people's opinions on this. My personal opinion, a guy that I think could pull it off without any trouble is Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
He brings so much to a character. He did Sweeney Todd,
Mm-hmm.
Edward Scissorhands, Jack Sparrow, all those different bizarre characters that he's brought to life. Willy Wonka, and did them to where you felt like that was the person that it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And with being a Jack the Ripper type of character, I think that he would do a really fine part in that. I think he could bring it to life, even though he's been in one. He was in From Hell.
That's true.
And he's playing the opposite side of the coin. But you didn't get to see Jack the Ripper in that movie, so
yeah, there you go. Now I like to ask about soundtrack. Is there anything in particular you listen to when writing this, or do you think would set the mood for this story, or a song that reminds you of it?
I don't know what would set the mood for this story. I listened to everything from bizarre carnival songs to Rob Zombie to show tunes. Just when I was writing it, depending on what part of it I was writing, is what I was listening to that day. A lot of it, like the old like carnival tunes, the weird carnival tunes, like the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out song. If you remember that, the Hearst song.
Mm-hmm.
Different things like that is what I listened to while I was writing this book, and I also listened to a lot of things like the old 20s music and stuff like that, from the gaiety music and stuff
Mhm.
when I was having happier things going on in the book or something, which isn't very often in the book actually. But
That's not too surprising. So, fans of what other author or book or series do you think would find your book appealing?
if you're a fan of Jack Ketchum, Dallas Jack Ketchum, you would, um, I think you would find my book very interesting. Um, of course, if you like the psychological thrillers of Stephen King and Dean Koontz and some of those, you would like this type of book. But I've been identified most closely with Jack Ketchum's type books. If you've ever read any of his, he's the one that they did the movie the Girl Next Door,
Mm.
um, where it's fairly violent, fairly visceral, very the the subplots and everything are in your face type things. So
Mhm.
uh,
So, is there an author that you would say was a real influence on you?
in my younger days, I would say the first series of books that I really got into were Tolkien and Ursula K. Le Guin, Ursa trilogy, which is basically the diary or basically the story of Gandalf before he grows up or as he's growing up. If you've ever read that series, um, and then I got into Neil Gaiman comic book Sandman series and stuff, and I really liked what he did with that. And I wrote some things with for Tracy Hickman and Weiss um, for the Dragonlance Chronicles. Is what I started out writing years ago, and um, story that I had in a notebook. The notebook got stolen at work, and I lost all that. That was way back before computers and stuff. You didn't have a home computer back then. You had pieces of paper.
Right, right. Yeah, I can't imagine people walking around with their original manuscript, but that's what they did. That's what you had to
Yeah,
do. So,
that's we had that back in the day and everything because a laptop computer hadn't been invented. The Commodore 64 hadn't been invented yet, really.
mhm.
So, and it's sort of hard to carry one of those around in your back pocket anyway.
The first computer I had access to was an Apple IIe with an amber screen.
Well,
So, is there anybody? Oh, go
I
ahead.
had a Commodore 64 back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
I
the
did.
first
I did.
little computer that I had, and besides my scientific handheld computer that you had the magnetic strips from TI that you put in there so that you could do scientific equations and stuff.
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't lucky enough to have the Commodore 64. I had the weaker version, the VIC 20. Remember that?
Yeah.
So, is there anybody you're reading now?
Um, Several that I'm reading right now. The main one that I'm reading is Matt Lation's book about Jack the Ripper, live and uncut. It's not out on the market right this minute. You may be able to get some from Matt himself, but the actual book is off the market right now. They're working with bringing it out and bringing out another book in the series of that one. And I got a copy of it before they took it off the market.
Hmm.
He had self-printed it, got an agent, did different things like that, and they're redoing the book and putting it back out there
Cool.
and selling it to a publication now.
Oh, very cool. So, is there anything that you're like any TV series you're really into? Anything you're binge watching or that you would recommend?
Considering I've got Air TV at the house,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any internet at the house. I don't have satellite, um, cable, any of that stuff at the house. I live out in the country, and it's one of those type things where binge watching. I don't do a whole lot of binge watching unless there's something I get on my phone and watch or something. But but I still don't do binge watching on that. The one program that I really enjoy, and it's a comedy. It's a British comedy. Last of the Summer Grapes. I don't know if you've even ever heard of that one or not before. It's an old English show that most of the people that are on the show are dead now. It was done for many years, and it's just British humor stuff. So
I used to watch a lot of British humor back in the day, so but I'm not familiar with that one. So now,
yeah, that
oh, go ahead.
that one is a good show. It's good and clean and all that stuff. I mean, they do some different things that are sort of like suggestive things, but as far as the actual show is, you got three old men that go around together and everything all the time and get into all sorts of stuff.
Well, here's a question we've touched on a little bit, but it's one I definitely wanted to ask you, and that's: do you have any strange or unusual hobbies?
Well, my wife says I have a spoke addiction because I've got a penny farthing bicycle. I've got that I ride. That I think I sent you a picture of that, of me riding that someplace. I've also got a 1901 Oldsmobile Curve Dash automobile, which is one of the original horseless carriages that I drive. And then the fact that I'm, a Victorian chef and enjoy cooking things from that time period, and have a fledgling ketchup company that I'll be trying to get back going pretty soon. I had some health issues this last year that stopped me from doing that for a while, but hopefully I'll be able to get that back up and running again. And then just being with my wife when I'm not going out to events and stuff like that is my main thing.
Yep, sounds good. Now, back to the writing for a second. If you had one piece of advice to an aspiring writer, what would it be?
The one piece of advice that I'd give them is to quit being aspiring and start writing. You can aspire all day long. I came up with a phrase this last year or this year, sort of, 1 day to 2 days. You can say that you'll do something one day never gets here. Or you can say you're going to do it 2 days. You're not going to be able to do everything today, but today's here, and you can get some of it done. And if you do a little bit on it all the time, eventually you'll have a book out there, or you'll have a collection of stories, or you'll have your comic books, or you'll have your movie, or your screen play, or you'll have something out there that you'll be proud of, that you can say, I did this.
Yeah, I agree. I hear all the time that the best thing you can do to, get better is write more. The best thing you can do to promote your book is write another book. I mean, it's all about doing the work. It is a work, I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I don't do enough work because I'm not getting out enough words a day a lot of times, but it is what it is. I'm very strategic on the words that I put down on the page, and that I think contributes to what makes my book special, not only to me but to other people, is the fact that I really stress myself on what's going down on the page each time I write something. Does it have the right words? Does it have what I want in there? And it goes back to me being my own worst critic. But if you're doing it every day, sooner or later it will get done. And if you haphazardly do it, you write today, and then it's 3 months from now you decide to pick it back up and write a little bit more, you're going to have to get back into what you wrote that first time. You're going to have to reread whatever you got written there to know where you even want to start carrying the plan again. Unless you're a complete plotter and everything, you do 100-page plot of your story before you ever start writing your book. I've known people that do that. I don't do that. I've got an outline of where I want my book to go. But as far as a complete plot of this has got to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, now I've got to just write the story to go along with that, I don't have that. Because if I'm going to do that much work, I might as well write the book.
Yeah. I agree. So, your books are available online as ebooks. They're available in print as well. What's the best website for people to find you?
The best one for people to find me at, besides Amazon and Barnes & Noble, if you're wanting to buy the book, is 7 Star Press, the publishing company that prints all my books for me. They, you can get the books through them, and they actually have a program to where you can, if you promise to give reviews of the books, they will let you have an e-copy of the book for giving the reviews and stuff. Which, it's almost like getting it for free, but you're actually having to do something for it.
Right. Yeah. And it's important to get reviews, and it's not always easy to get them. So that's good to know that that's an option for someone that, obviously we want people to support our work and buy our books. But I mean, if you're in a position where you can't, or you like to review things, then that would be a good option to pick that up.
Well, it's just like I just went through a blog tour where they were reviewing my books and stuff, and got my first 3-star review. And the person that reviewed it, they couldn't say anything bad about the book, except for the fact that, it was too over the top when it came to the sex and the violence. In other words, it wasn't their type of book.
Right.
But when it came down to the actual writing of the book and everything, they actually said that, flirted with, greatness in the review. It's just like, all right, I'll take that.
Yeah.
It's a 3-star review that I flirted with greatness on. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. And a lot of people will listen to a 3-star review before they would listen to a 5-star review, because they feel there's a better chance that that's going to be, a more even or honest review. So I don't think it'll hurt you.
Yeah. And like I said, considering what it said in it, I was just like, okay, we can deal with that. That one works for me. They weren't saying this is a piece of crap, don't waste your time or your money on it. It's like, he flirted with greatness and everything. It had too much sex, too much violence in it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving it 3 stars. Okay.
Yes. So I know you said you've got a couple sequels in the works. Any idea when we might see one of them? I don't want to pressure you, but
both of those will be out this year.
okay.
I don't know exactly when this year, but they will both be out this year.
Okay, great.
And then I'll be working on one of my fractured fairy tales. And I don't know if you've ever read The Wizard of Oz, but I'm doing Dorothy and Toto, Serial Killers of Oz.
Okay, I think you might be able to find an audience for that one.
Now think about this. What's the first thing that Dorothy and Toto did when they got to Oz?
Yeah, they killed the witch, right?
They killed a socialite. What's the next thing that they're going to go do? They're going to go kill another socialite. The people that they pick up to go in their merry band is one guy that's heartless that carries an axe. That's an axe murderer. I don't care what you say. Another guy that has no brains in his head, hardly, because he's burned them all out on drugs. He likes playing with fire. That's a drug addict pyromaniac. You know, you just have to work with what you've got there and everything and just restructure it. I love doing that with different works that have been around for a long time and giving people something extra to play with. I don't know if you've ever read much of McGuire's books.
Mm-mm.
He's the one that did Wicked and those books, Gregory and McGuire.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the stage play Wicked out of his book. Which that's basically what he did. He told the story from the Wicked Witch's point of view instead of from everything else. So, Dorothy and Toto are not the good guys in this book.
All right. Well, looking forward to your new books coming out, and congratulations on the award. I know that came out of the blue, and it's bound to be appreciated. And
yeah, it was. And this is appreciated right here. Being able to talk to people like you on a regular basis now.
Yeah, it's great to be a part of the writing community, and especially as you get to know people as you run into them at the shows again and again. So I look forward to seeing you a little later in this year, hopefully.
You'll be at Imaginarium this year, won't you?
I'm sure I'll be there.
I've got 2 big shows that I'll be at before Imaginarium, and a lot of little things that I'll be at before then. The 2 big ones that I'll be at is Killer Nashville and BoucherCon, which is going to be out in Dallas this year.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that one or not. It's a mystery and spy and killer type thing.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Where it's an author and reader convention. The guy that wrote Jack Reacher there last year, along with a bunch of other, people like that. This next year, they've got some guy named James Patterson's going to be there.
I'm sure there won't be anybody lining up to meet him.
No. But that's who one of the guests. That's who one of the guest of honors is going to be, is James Patterson.
Wow.
So
it's just going to be a tiny little con, Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tiny little thing. It's the largest one of its type in the world.
Yeah.
But it's if you've ever heard of the Anthony Awards,
mm-hmm.
that I was nominated for an Anthony Award last year.
Oh, nice.
And went to my first one last year. And if you go to the con, or if you go to it, like this year is going to be $175 to get in.
Mm-hmm.
It was $200 something last year. It was down in St. Petersburg, Florida. It depends on what the people can do according to what city they're in and different things like that,
Mm-hmm.
what they're having to cover cost wise and stuff. And it's been around for like 50 years or something like from 1960s or something like that it's been around. And the when you first check in, they give you a whole tote bag of books.
Oh, wow.
That comes with you checking in. I think I left there with like 20 something books this last year. And didn't buy any.
Wow.
Did not buy any books. I could have left there with a whole bunch more, but tired of carrying them all.
Right. Well, it sounds like a good show.
Yeah. But then Killer Nashville is one of the premier shows for like noir and different things like that here in Nashville.
Cool.
So it was the original. It was the first show that I ever went to. Was the Killer Nashville. I'd never been to any of the writing conferences or anything like that before, and went down to Nashville just to see what was going on. When I heard about it, and that was when I was first writing my Catsup book. It didn't even have Knife's Tale even started yet. So it was a writer's convention and everything. I didn't have a clue what it was about, but if they could teach me something about writing and publishing and all that stuff, I was wanting to go.
Yeah, and looks like it paid off.
That's the thing that you get out of. That's the thing that you get out of going to shows like that. Get to meet people like yourself, and all these other people that are great writers and have done a lot of things in their life that will be able to give you information that you couldn't have. As a young writer, and especially not having a lot of money, couldn't pay for their time, and they'll sit down with you and give you information that you wouldn't believe because they're part of the community and they want to give back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, other guests have said the same thing. It's a great community. You can learn so much. There's so much support for other authors. It's really a good thing.
Yeah, and the ones that don't want to do that and everything, to me, I don't see them lasting, in the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If they do not want to, help give back to the community and stuff like that. Like one of the guys that I met last year, everything, he makes more a month being a self-published author than what I made in the restaurant before you took out all the bills that I had to pay.
Wow.
For a year.
Mm-hmm.
And he was making that a month.
Wow.
And he sat there until about 2:30 in the morning talking to me, just giving me advice and stuff.
Wow.
Just,
yeah. It's great, the connections you can make, the things you can learn. I really recommend writers conferences like that, or like Imaginarium. Really, great things to go to. Definitely, if you're a reader and you want to meet the authors, or if you're a potential writer and you want to learn things, then great reason to go to that sort of event.
Well, it's like, with Imaginarium, we have over 100 and something panels, on writing, movies, everything up there, depending on what your genre or what your, arts are. We've got basically a panel on it.
Yeah. I've gone and spoken at the panels, and I've attended panels and workshops there as well, and learned things. I'm there taking notes,
Well, it was like this last year, I'm sitting there moderating a panel, And one of the guys that's on the panel with me that I'm moderating is a guy that has written a book on writing horror. And I've written one horror book, and I'm moderating the panel, and he's on the panel, and I'm like, shouldn't this be the other way around or something? I know he can give a lot of information, but I had like 3 guys on the panel that I'm sitting there going, all these guys have written so much more than me that I wanted to pull out my notebook and just start writing down everything they said and forget about moderating.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, it's been great catching up with you, and I hope people check out your book, Knife's Tale. And like I said, I'd like to congratulate you again on your award, and hopefully I'll be seeing you here at Imaginarium.
Yep.
Before you know it.
One thing I want to bring up on my ketchup book, the one thing that I do with this book here, I had to have over 20 units of blood put in my body last year. So 90% of all my proceeds off this book goes to the blood banks of Tennessee for keeping me alive last year. If anybody knows anything about how much blood is in the human body, I've had over a complete changeover of blood in my body. And it was within like 6 months time. But that is what I do with my proceeds off that book. If they want to buy that book, it's know that everything that would normally be coming to me, except for 10%, so that I can keep doing, keep getting the book out there, goes to the blood banks of Tennessee.
That's great.
And hopefully, if I can keep it going, I can branch it out into other, places too, other states and stuff. But
well, once again, it's like you said, it's like giving back. You realize that you benefited from that, and now you're able to help pay it back. So that's great, and hopefully people will get behind that. And I know you're kind of known in the circle for your catch-up, and it'll be neat that people could check out the book and learn more about it. And I'm sure so many things have changed over the years. It's interesting. Just not that I'm going off on organic and this and that and the other, but foods just changed so much over the years. The things that we use to make them, the ingredients, things have to be more shelf stable now, and there's science involved and whatever. But even the smallest things have changed so much.
Well, it's like with that book, it has around 200 recipes for ketchup and about 60 different flavors.
Wow.
Because tomato is a type of ketchup. Ketchup is not tomato.
Well, that explains why the bottles say tomato ketchup. I always wondered. I was like, isn't that redundant? But now I know better.
Because, when you go into here and you start reading what the, table of contents is, you've got your fruit ketchups, which is, apple, banana, barberry, blackberry, blueberry, Caribbean, cherry, crabapple, cranberry, currant, different things like that. And then you go into mushroom ketchups, the ketchups from the sea, whether it's an anchovy ketchup or a cockle ketchup or a lobster ketchup. And then you've got, different types of tomato ketchups, and then vinegar ketchups. And, then you go into the walnut ketchups and spices and stuff, you have, so many different things that ketchup was made out of back then, because everything had to be local.
Right.
Because we didn't have all the shipping that we can do today. Back in the 1800s, if it wasn't grown local, you probably didn't make it into a ketchup, because it's a spiced acidified sauce. And whatever your base is what your base is. And then you acidify it, and you spice, put the spices in it and everything, and you make a form of ketchup out of it.
Wow.
But the original Catsup that was brought in from Indonesia to Europe was a fish-based sauce made out of fish brine.
Wow.
That's your history lesson for the day.
I knew you had a ketchup cookbook, but I had no idea that there was so much variety. I mean, that there was that different, so many totally different types of things. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And, I will be coming out with some other Victorian cookbooks so that people can see some of the other things that were cooked back then and try them out. The one thing that, like on this book here, I tell them, this was done back then. Use today's standards on sanitation and everything so you do not kill yourself. I don't say it in those words, but that's what I mean.
Right. All right. Well, hey, it's always great to see you and talk to you, and I look forward to what you've got coming in the future.
Well, I appreciate it, Glenn. And if you need anything else from me at any time, holler at me. If you're needing to know something about food from the 1800s, I'm your man.
All right. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. That's really cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. And like I said, I'll be hopefully seeing you soon.
Thank you, Glenn. You have a good day.
I'd like to thank author Daniel Dark for being our guest, and I'd like to thank you for joining us. Be sure to visit the blurb.tv for all the links mentioned in this episode. If you enjoyed the program, be sure to share this with your friends and remember to hit like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and iTunes. You can support the show by visiting our sponsors, buying our merch, or shopping with our affiliate links. And as always, thank you for your support, and I'll see you next week with another new episode.